Hi everyone, today we are going to talk about Chapter 5, Attachment. So there are many features to attachment. The first is that it is a complex and ongoing process. It involves a responsiveness to an infant and involves a closeness to an infant. And the actual definition is an affectionate bond that forms between individuals that endures through space and time. So when we're talking about attachment, it has huge implications in terms of brain development. The basic building blocks of the brain include neurons, an axon, dendrite, and synapses. And synapses are really crucial in that the connections are formed through experiences. So the more experiences you're able to give to a young child and that they're able to experience, the more synapses they'll have connecting areas in their brain. So what happens is if they have unused synapses, they're basically pruned, which means they disappear. Used synapses are maintained, and early experiences help to form all the stable pathways within the brain. So one of the big issues oftentimes when we put infants in childcare is that parents get worried and jealous about the attachment that an infant develops to their caregiver versus the attachment they develop towards their parents. And caregivers know that attachments for a much shorter period of time. A caregiver attachment starts later in life because usually infants don't start infant care until at least 3 months. And a caregiver attachment is secondary to parent attachment. In fact, research has shown that the closer and more attached the infant is to the parent, the closer and more attached they'll be to the caregiver. So they actually go hand in hand. So a parent, instead of feeling jealous about their infant being so attached to the caregiver, should feel that how valuable it is that the infant is able to transfer. They're able to have such a good attachment and healthy attachment to their parent that they're also able to attach to a caregiver. There's some specific milestones of attachment, and they include trying to follow a departing parent. So you'll see a baby's eyes like watching them walk out the door. Oftentimes they'll cry when the parent walks away, and they'll pull away from strangers because they want to be with the parent. So extremely close infant-adult relationships are formed through mutually responsive behavior, and this includes touching and feeding and holding them and eye contact. And one of the things that we realize is that autonomy is related to attachment, meaning that as the child's getting more independent, that is crucial for them to have a healthy attachment to encourage them to be more independent. Securely attached toddlers may have difficulty with separation, but toddlers who are really securely attached will separate and then be able to play. So ways that caregivers can assist in helping parents has to do with allowing the child to have his or her feelings, making sure that they're aware that they're important. Help the parent leave immediately when they say goodbye. These long, drawn out goodbyes are even harder for the child because usually they're crying in anticipation of the parent leaving. Once the parent's gone, they regroup and they're able to start playing. But when it's this half hour long, I'm going to leave now. Oh no, don't cry, I'm not going to go till you're done crying. They just need to go, and then discourage the parents from sneaking away because that sends a really mixed message. When parents sneak away, the child's learning they can't trust the parent because they turned away for a second and suddenly the parent is gone. So that's a really unhealthy thing to allow the parents to do. And as caregivers, it's important to say to the parents, we don't let you sneak out, you need to say goodbye. That's the parent doing it for themselves because they don't want to see their child getting distressed, but it's crucial that the child get an opportunity to say goodbye to the parent. In this way, they learn that the parent will always come back. During separation, we can remind the parents that secondary attachments to caregivers are in addition to parental attachments. They never replace them. And one of the great things about working with infants and toddlers is they think we're so cool. So one of the things that Mary Ainsworth did is she decided to create a strange situation where she could measure attachment between a mother and a child. And she found that securely attached infants and toddlers seem comfortable in a new setting and explore independently as long as the parent's present. Insecure, avoidant attachment is indicative of children who do not see closeness to the parent, nor seem depressed when the parent departs. So they're kind of like indifferent to the parent being there or not being there. Insecure, ambivalent attachment patterns involve positive and negative reactions to the parents. And this is oftentimes something that's learned by the parents sneaking out. The child learns they can't really trust them. So there is they're happy to see the parent when the parent comes, but then they're angry because the parent snuck out. And then there's disorganized, disoriented patterns of behavior. And this is evidenced by children who approach the parent while looking away at the same time. Now, these 4 descriptions of attachment focus only on the mother and child attachment and are based on research from the 1970s, and a lot has changed since then. We know that many more fathers are involved in child care and dropping kids off at child care and being caregivers. So that is very different as well. Children from some cultures may live in extended families and have multiple attachments. It doesn't mean they're not very attached to their mothers, but they may be just as close with an auntie or a grandmother who also lives in the home. Some infants are born without a strong set of attachment behaviors. And often in these cases, adults may find it hard to interact with these children. And the caregiver needs to find a way to work with these children. So one of the things we have to do is think of the positive and help the parents think of the positive with the child. Like, see, he kind of smiled when you walked in. I saw him watching you with his eyes. Caregiving for more than 12 babies in one caregiving environment works against developing attachment with each child. We also want to have it where it's the same settled caregiver with the child every day. One of my students let me know that at her child care center, they switched every 3 days. They had to switch and start taking care of different infants because the parents were getting too jealous of the infant attachment with the caregivers, which goes against everything that we talk about. It's that, think of how ambivalent that attachment is to a child, that when they come to daycare, they have a different caregiver taking care of them every 3 days. A primary caregiver system helps promote attachment. And one of the things that this does is it makes it so that there's a specific caregiver per child so that they can really establish an attachment relationship. So one of the things we're always concerned about is if a baby has no attachment or a negative attachment, families and caregivers should try working together to promote attachment. Outside help may be necessary if the child isn't responding to the interventions. And without help, these kids may fail to thrive, may become passive, and may lack trust. And this does follow you. Things that you're exposed to very early on in life, especially in attachment relationships, do follow you later in life in terms of trust and how much you trust someone that you may be in a relationship with. Infants need ongoing, reciprocal, responsive interactions to promote attachment. Remember, exemplary infant child care that promotes attachment helps children gain a sense of security and trust. So when we're talking about attachment, sometimes some children have special needs and this could impede the attachment. So we have something called early intervention. And this is the process of identifying young children with disabilities who are at risk for developing disabilities. And it's important to create a plan for support so children can achieve their full potential. And the plan needs to focus on developmental needs of the child and a multidisciplinary approach, which means that many people are working with the infant and toddler and the family. And the laws that guide early intervention are the Education for All Handicapped Children's Act of 1975. And then that was done in Education of the Handicapped Act in 1986. And then now we have Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act from 2004. So there's some benefits and challenges of early intervention. Benefit is that it can support young children with disabilities early in their development and overcoming obstacles. And they recognize the difference between temporary and permanent delays and differences. And it's very important that we're assisting families in their efforts to find the most appropriate resources and helping families learn how to attach to their child that may have a disability. And then you guys can take your quiz, and I link you to some observations as well.